My name is Jamie Miller, and as a final project to earn my Master's of Education in Literacy and Language, I've conducted a research project on the impact that digital tools such as apps, extensions, and add-ons have on students' academic performance and literacy. I want to share my research and findings with you and hope to inspire you to join the efforts to help our students become better readers and writers. As you can see here in this graph, our fourth grade students who read at or above a grade level that is considered proficient is only at 37%. We see pretty similar statistics when we look at our eighth grade students. About 36% of eighth graders read at or above a grade level that's considered proficient. So as you can see, we have a lot of room for adjustment to help our students become better readers and writers. There are a myriad of theories as to why America's literacy rates have been slow or even lacking in growth. As you can see in our charts here, we haven't seen much growth for many years. Some years, the years with the asterisks are considered significantly different than our recent percentages. However, they're lingering pretty closely on average. Same thing with fourth grade students. So there's several different theories and concerns, including curriculum design, sociocultural roots, socioeconomic statuses, rapidly changing technology, teacher development, demands on modern family, and the list goes on and on. There are many theories out there as to why American students are so lacking in literacy growth. Once students reach their secondary education, instruction on learning on how to read stops. At that point, students are expected to read to learn, not learn to read, which leaves struggling readers with little or no support in a setting where fluency and comprehension play a very important role in academic success. Interesting enough, even with all the data that supports the need for secondary reading intervention, little is known about how to effectively implement literacy instruction, and also how to really help secondary students who need basic level skill building, how to provide that instruction to help them obtain those basic literacy skills to become more proficient readers. So that leads me to my research question. So I was curious as to what we can do as secondary educators to help improve our students' literacy. And so with the ever-growing demand of bringing technology into the classroom and the ever-growing concern of our students being good digital citizens and understanding how to use technology academically as well as socially and in their post-secondary goals. So I wanted to know, if we are having such a push towards using technology to benefit students, why not figure out how we could use it to help provide reading interventions? So on my research journey, I decided to focus on how apps, extensions, and add-ons might impact the academic performance of students, and particularly students with reading disabilities. I'm a secondary ELA teacher, and I work mostly with struggling readers and co-teach classes and students with reading disabilities. So I used my self-contained ELA 3 classroom as a setting for my research. In my self-contained classroom, I have a small group of 4 students. We meet every other day for ELA 3. And when I explained proposed my research to my students, they were all willing to participate. So we discussed, when we talked about the research, is different types of literacy, how they struggle, and particularly because they have learning disabilities with literacy, and what types of literacies they may encounter today that having digital tools in their toolbox may help them with. So all my students agreed to work with me. I had 2 males and 2 females. I gave them the pseudonyms Alvin, Theodore, Eleanor, and Brittany. They are all juniors in high school. They've all been with me for 2 years in small group ELA instruction. Alvin is 18 years old, and the other 3 are 17 years old. I gave them the pseudonyms borrowed from the Chipmunks because the respective characters kind of remind me of each of the students. And they've also been a group of friends that have their ups and downs being in so many self-contained classrooms together. So Alvin is our oldest, and there's Theodore, Eleanor, and Brittany, who are all 17 years old, all juniors in high school, all have a reading and writing disability, and all have been in class together for several resource self-contained courses throughout their college experience or their high school experience. So they are getting ready to finish up with all of their ELA credits. And most of their ELA instruction up to this point has been a very curriculum-based, scaffolded instruction. There's not been a lot of specific Tier 3 type intervention. And as research suggests, Tier 3 interventions, for even students with reading and writing disabilities, Tier 3 intervention could be very, very beneficial. And there's not necessarily specific amounts of time or duration of Tier 3 interventions. However, no matter which way they receive them, they seem to be very beneficial. So for my Tier 3 interventions with my students for my research project, I took a look at these apps and extensions that are available for free through the Google Chrome store. There's Text Help PDF Reader, which is a very interactive application that you can use with PDFs. There's Mercury Reader, which eliminates ads, kind of cleans up the face of the text, makes the text very reader friendly. Wolfram Alpha is available for free through the Chrome store, and it is kind of a research engine. You can pull it up at any time and type in any type of question that you're wanting to seek an answer to. It's different from using Google in that it gives you one response that you can sort through instead of Google searching something and getting maybe hundreds or thousands or even millions of responses. Then there's Grammarly, which is pretty famous, and then an extension called Open Dyslexic Font. So these were my choices of free digital tools to introduce my students to. So these 5 apps, extensions, add-ons, from this point forward, I'm just going to refer to them all as digital tools. These 5 digital tools were the focus of my study. So as I moved through my research with my students, I introduced each of these tools one at a time, and we practiced with the tools until the students felt pretty confident with using them. Some of the more interactive tools, like the PDF Reader, took quite a few sessions for students to become familiar with the complexity of the tool. Some of the others, like Mercury Reader and Wolfram Alpha, were pretty easy for students to get to know relatively quickly. So as I moved through my research with introducing these tools, I had my students complete different type of classroom work, applying the tools to their work. And then I asked them to complete questionnaires and different types of responses, kind of indicating how useful they found the tool to be and how user-friendly they found the tool to be. So after completing all of the research, I took the students' work, their responses to the tools, my observations and notes, and kind of put together, compiled kind of an overall idea on how students thought about each of the different digital tools. So starting with PDF Reader, students, as you can see, were not very impressed with the tool. They asked excessive questions at the beginning of using the tool. It took them quite a while to become independent with using the PDF Reader. They have issues with the text-to-speech, or PDF Reader has issues with the text-to-speech. It does not work very well. So we kind of eliminated that component as we familiarized ourselves more with the tool. Students often commented that the read-write extension was much better, which the read-write extension works similar to the PDF Reader. And I did remind students that the read-write extension may not work on most PDFs. And also that the read-write extension costs money, and once they're no longer a student here at school, they will be responsible for paying for read-write extension if they don't use some of the free digital tools that are out there. So they kept comparing it to read-write extension. They had quite a few negative remarks on PDF Reader. Some of your average student comments like it's stupid or it sucks. Student work was often missing pens. There were some incomplete questions regarding using PDF Reader to help them answer the questions. So overall, student satisfaction was minimal. I asked them to rank it on a scale to 1 to 10, considering the usefulness of the app, the user friendliness of the app, if they will use it again, and just their overall thoughts of the app. And in general, they were not happy with it. However, as a teacher, I found the PDF Reader to really require students to interact with the text, which is very beneficial because it keeps them accountable. They can't just say they read it when they actually didn't. If you have them interacting with the text using the PDF Reader, it keeps them very accountable for having read the text. So even though students were not very pleased with the digital tool, I find it to be very useful in the classroom. So then let's move on to Mercury Reader. Mercury Reader is a relatively easy tool to use. You download it for free from the Chrome store and puts a little rocket ship looking icon on your toolbar, and on any page that you find on the internet that has a good article that you would like to read that's inundated with ads, all you do is click on the Mercury Reader rocket. It opens it up in a new tab, and all of the ads are gone. The students, my observations and notes and student works show that the students were very interactive with Mercury Reader. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use, helpful when reading because it eliminates all of the distractions. Students often mention that they love this extension, and they use the word love. It's also, as an educator, it's a really good way to create a PDF because you can use Mercury Reader to open up the website or news article or whatever it is that you're looking at once you open it with Mercury Reader, without the app, all of the ads there, you can then create a PDF. So then you have a really nice, clean PDF of an article that you found online. It does enhance reading experience per what students say. They were all very happy with the tool, and they all found it very helpful. They were also quite impressed at how quickly they could switch to the face of a text, how quickly it went from a messy, ad-filled online article to a very nice, clean, easy-to-read text. So overall, the satisfaction with Mercury Reader was very high. The students just loved it. So it was a very useful tool. I think it was makes a document very pleasing to the eye rather than having all of the ads that are distracting. However, it's not quite as interactive as the PDF Reader, where PDF Reader is a digital tool that allows you to really interact with the text. That it takes a lot of work to use it and to interact, where students did not like it. We have Mercury Reader, which is with a click of a button, cleans up a text, makes it look nicer, and the students absolutely love it. So two very different digital tools with two very different purposes, with two very different responses. So because of the juxtaposition of the two tools, I wanted to, or in using the two tools, I wanted to put the tools together to see what students thought about using them in conjunction, and they did not like it. Again, they became disengaged. There was complaints. I'm never doing this again. I don't see how this is helpful. The student work was complete, but not to their best efforts. They did use it to interact with some post-secondary articles that interested them in their post-secondary goals. And so they did find it a little beneficial in that aspect. However, when it came to being able to find something online, use Mercury Reader to clean it up and create a PDF, and then use PDF Reader to interact with the text, students found it to be way too involved. They did not like using the tools together. However, as an educator, I found it to be a wonderful assessment tool, a wonderful way to have students interacting with a text, and really a good way to enhance comprehension, because students are actually having to take the time to interact with the text. So satisfaction with PDF Reader and Mercury Reader, again, using them together, students were not impressed. They made the comments that they will not, outside of being made to do it in the classroom, they will not be using it again. So then that brings me to my third digital tool, which is Wolfram Alpha. So Wolfram Alpha is kind of a search engine type digital tool. It creates a little star-shaped tool up there on your toolbar. And so when we use Wolfram Alpha, I gave them an assignment to look up some certain information and be interactive with Wolfram Alpha to find the responses to the information. And while we were working on Wolfram Alpha, students had some very interactive questioning going on. They were on the tool, they were asking about components of it, how to use it, where to find information if they couldn't find it themselves. Students commented that they thought the tool was interesting and very user-friendly. And they were able to answer the questions that I gave them correctly using the extension. So it did provide them a platform to retrieve information that was correct in response to the questions that they gave. So all in all, it seems as if Wolfram Alpha is a user-friendly tool, and that students were interested in using that digital tool. So students overall were pretty happy with Wolfram Alpha. They'd even make comments that they would use the digital tool in other classes. So really, Wolfram Alpha is something that they will take and use cross-curriculum. And so it seems to have proved itself as a pretty good tool to help students with maybe challenges in information, or reading, new or unknown vocabulary, or domain-specific vocabulary, or issues that they come across in other classes that may impact their comprehension. They can call upon Wolfram Alpha to help them sort through some of that unknown information. So all in all, it seems to be a pretty useful digital tool. So then that brings us to Grammarly. Grammarly, of course, is a well-known digital tool. Many of the students use it, have it. They will use it. Some of them have it, but don't use it very often. We did an assignment where we compared paragraphs where students had to write up a paragraph response without using any spell check or corrective technology. And then they had to copy and paste it below the same paragraph below and use Grammarly to help them correct their errors, and then compare and contrast the two paragraphs once they finished with the corrections. So my interpretation for the results of Grammarly is that students are aware of the resource, but they don't use it as often or as effectively as possible. A lot of students commented about using the spell check that's part of Google Docs or Microsoft Word and not really needing Grammarly. But I did have the discussion with students that Grammarly does more. It checks grammar and spelling, and with a little bit more accuracy than some of the other tools that they're using. So students stated that they would be more interested in using Grammarly more often, and they pretty much gave it a, kind of middle of the road satisfaction. I think it's a tool that students are comfortable using and comfortable talking about. However, without being prompted to use it, they just don't use it very often. So as we move forward in our classroom, just daily classroom activities, Grammarly will be one of the digital tools that I really encourage students to start using more often. So then that brings us to Open Dyslexic Font. So in my journey of introducing free digital tools, we did encounter the speed bump of malware that does come with some free digital tools. So when we downloaded Open Dyslexic Font, and we used it very briefly, it actually is pretty cool in what it does. It changes the font of the text on any website. It changes the font to a dyslexic friendly font. So all in all, it really, what it's supposed to do is a very good idea. But with this extension, we had a malware that came along with it that pretty much hijacked the themes of our computers and made the themes on our computers seem as if it was a nighttime theme. And it did it in such a way that it was pretty difficult to figure out how to switch it back. So we had to call in technology for backup to help us gain control of the themes on our computers. So one lesson learned, and probably a very valuable lesson learned while working with students on free digital tools to help with their literacy needs, is that we need to be careful that we're not downloading tools that could be harmful to our devices. We trusted Open Dyslexic Fonts because our Google Chrome store through our school district filters out, or is supposed to filter out, apps, extensions, and add-ons that may potentially be dangerous to our computers. So we did not research any kind of consumer responses on this digital tool. However, I do believe that my students will take from this research, they will take with them that if they do want to download digital tools, that they need to be careful and make sure that they're not downloading something on their computer that can be harmful. So I eliminated Open Dyslexic Font from our results because I feel like they would be skewed given the nature of the malware that came along with it. So my findings throughout my digital tool research is that digital tools can be a great assessment tool for educators. Some of them may be more helpful to assess students rather than help students with their reading. And I found this because like PDF Reader and Mercury Reader, PDF Reader used together was very, very interactive. And it made students really work hard while they were reading. And students didn't particularly care for that. So even if whatever reason it may be that they did not want to be that interactive with a text, it's a great assessment tool to make sure that students are being interactive with a text. Another theme that I found is the less interactive, the greater the impact had on the students, the tool had on the students. Students like tools that change a text, not tools that interact with a text. Students complained about using the digital tools that required them to be interactive. They did not complain about the tools that were simple to use and changed the face of a text. Like the Open Dyslexic font, all they had to do is click a button and the text changed to a dyslexic friendly font. Like the Mercury Reader, where all they do is push a button and the face of the text changed. They found that these tools that change the face of the text to be useful, and I could see where it would be useful to the students because it made the text more reader friendly. So even though it may not have enhanced their foundational reading skills, it did provide a much more reader friendly text for the students. Another theme that I found is that oftentimes the digital tools are only used when students are prompted to use them. Students did not use the tools independently. On some days where I gave students assignments outside of my research project, I wanted to, kind of sit back and watch and see if they would go to a digital tool to help them with the assignment. And I did not observe any student at any time going to use a digital tool out of their toolbox. They did not show concern or interest in using a digital tool if they were not asked to do so. So it's unfortunate that students don't find digital tools more beneficial, especially as we continue to be expected to read digitally, to function in a digital world, for students to recognize new literacies that we expose them to on a daily basis, that they will use in their post-secondary goals and their personal and social lives. There's so many ways that digital tools can come into play in helping students be more successful as digital citizens. There's a study that is titled Using Multiliteracies to Rethink Pedagogy in the Elementary Classroom. And the author of that article states that many literacies will be needed for a wide range of competencies in today's world. The literacies not only include the traditional literacies, but will be expanded to encompass multimodal text that include alphabets and images, linguistics, tactile modes of literacy. That our literary world is just expanding, and the more tools that we can provide our students, even with from the basic literacy skills to having a toolbox full of digital tools that will help them read, comprehend, and build fluency, and just continue to grow in their overall background knowledge. Just so many different stepping stones of literacy that digital tools can very well play a large role in competency, in their in multiliteracies. And so when it comes to digital tools, there's just a lot to still be learned about the impact of digital tools on literacy. And this short research that I was able to provide, I did not find it to be nearly enough time with nearly enough digital tools to really understand the benefit that digital tools can have on students, or the resistance of students to use digital tools. Today's literacy is impacted by many different variables, and many of them are beyond our control. Nonetheless, we need to continue to explore interventions that'll help prepare our secondary students for their post-secondary goals. So as we continue to explore, those tier 3 impactful interventions, a continued study on digital tools could prove to be very beneficial.